A lot of people these days on the supposed right are deeply unhappy with President Trump. Some of them are even saying they regret their vote for President Trump. These people are idiots. On the basis of President Trump's astonishingly great Supreme Court alone, they are idiots.
So Ben Shapiro just dropped a fiery defense of Trump's Supreme Court legacy after the court banned race-based redistricting. With Trump now in his second term and facing constant criticism, even from conservatives, Shapiro's making the case that the judicial appointments alone justify everything. Let's break this down.
Obviously, President Trump has done a lot of great things. He shut the border, he arrested Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, wiped out DEI in the executive branch, went after the trans movement, attacked Iran's nuclear and missile capacity, and a lot more. But his greatest legacy by far, his most lasting legacy by far, will be the astounding Supreme Court that he put into place.
He's absolutely right about the lasting impact. While Trump's current approval sits around 42%, these court decisions will shape American law for decades. The Venezuelan operation, DEI rollback, and Iran strikes grab headlines. But constitutional precedents outlast any presidency.
They overturned Roe versus Wade. They allowed states to ban the transgender mutilation of children. They've stood for religious freedom. And now, in yet another amazingly courageous decision, the Supreme Court has ruled that courts cannot force states to draw racist congressional districts. And Democrats are fighting mad. Surprise! If you say we should not draw congressional districts based on race, then you must be the racist. We'll get to all of it. Plus,
this timing couldn't be better for Republicans heading into 2026 midterms. With the court blocking racial gerrymandering, Democrats lose a key tool they've used to manufacture safe seats. These constitutional victories give the GOP powerful talking points about equal treatment under law.
So President Trump's greatest legacy will be the Supreme Court. Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. This Supreme Court is the most constitutionally protective Supreme Court in modern American history by far. And they showed it this week when they ruled that courts can't force states to draw racist congressional districts. So Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, finally got it right for once by accident. He says this is the Trump court.
Even Hakeem Jeffries admits this is Trump's court, and he's furious about it. The 6-3 conservative majority has fundamentally shifted American jurisprudence toward originalism. Democrats know these justices will be making decisions long after Trump leaves office in 2029.
This is ridiculous, and Democrats are going nuts. See, here's the thing. Democrats think that Americans, by and large, are racist, that white Americans are racist. So the government must force white Americans not to be racist by creating racist districts. Get it? I didn't think so. Basically, they are arguing that if you don't want the government discriminating on the basis of race, you are the real racist. In fact, you must draw congressional districts that are majority minority.
This exposes the core Democratic contradiction perfectly. They simultaneously claim colorblindness is racist while demanding race-conscious policies. We see this same logical pretzel on everything from college admissions to corporate hiring quotas. The court just called it out.
Honestly, this is conspiratorial nonsense. The idea that white people are trying to stop black people from voting in the United States is ridiculous. First of all, take Virginia, for example. The white candidate, Abigail Spanberger, won 90% of the black vote. The black candidate, Winsome Sears, won 90% of the white vote. So it turns out the American people are not nearly as racist as Chuck Schumer wishes they were.
The data backs this up completely. Black voter turnout actually exceeded white turnout in 2008, 2012, and 2020. In Georgia's 2022 elections, black participation hit record highs despite Democrats screaming about voter suppression. The discrimination narrative simply doesn't match reality.
That is telling on himself. The reason he's upset is not because he believes that black people are discriminated against. It's because black people are disproportionately Democratic voters, and he believes that Democratic seats are going to disappear. That's called normal gerrymandering. Now, again, gerrymandering has been a part of our process since the very beginning. There's truly no great substitute for gerrymandering, political gerrymandering, where the state legislature or state commission or another body draws the districts within a state. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. The 2030 reapportionment will massively favor red states as people flee California and New York for Texas and Florida. Democrats see the writing on the wall and wanted racial gerrymandering as their last-ditch defense mechanism.
Okay, by the way, the fact that black Democrats are still there demonstrates that America is not, in fact, particularly racist. Actually, there's something like 26 majority black districts in the United States. 24 of them are represented by a black person in those districts as their elected representative. But there are well over 60 black representatives in Congress, which means a lot of white people are voting for a lot of black candidates. I mean, that does not bespeak tremendous American racism.
Those numbers destroy the systemic racism argument. Obama won Iowa twice with 93% white voters. Tim Scott represents South Carolina. The Congressional Black Caucus has 58 members from districts where white voters had to participate in their elections. Actions speak louder than rhetoric.
As we'll explain in just a second, he's lying. Basically, what the Supreme Court ruled is that you can do normal partisan gerrymandering. You just can't decide that you're going to hurt black people because they are black. Obama says this serves as just one more example of how a majority of the current court seems intent on abandoning its vital role in ensuring equal participation in our democracy and protecting the rights of minority groups against majority overreach. The good news is such setbacks can be overcome, but that will only happen if citizens across the country who cherish our democratic ideals continue to mobilize and vote in record numbers. Now, again, his tweet is self-defeating. If it turns out black citizens can mobilize and vote in record numbers, you do not have systemic barriers to voting in the United States, do you?
Obama's tweet literally defeats itself. If black citizens can mobilize and vote in record numbers, then there's no systemic suppression happening. The court ruling actually enforces equal protection, no racial preferences either direction. That's true constitutional colorblindness.
Okay, the first map here was the original map of Louisiana's districts. Okay, this is the map of Louisiana's districts. And what you see here is that there were 6 congressional districts here in Louisiana. And what you have is a first district that is sort of disparate, and a second district that is sort of disparate, a sixth that is somewhat more cohesive, a third that is cohesive, a fourth and a fifth that are somewhat cohesive. Right? That's what you're looking at when you look at this map. You have a sort of salamander-like majority black district. That would be the second congressional district in Louisiana. That was Louisiana's map from 2013 to 2022. Then a court ruled that they couldn't use that map. So they drew another map. Okay, and that map, again, the congressional districts look pretty cohesive. What you have there, and again, the way that the congressional districts are split in Louisiana is fairly even. The Louisiana districts are not, it's not like all 6 districts are represented by Republicans. That's not the way that it works. But even if it were to work that way, that would be a partisan gerrymandering. Now we get to the actual map. Okay, this is the map that was mandated by the court.
That original Louisiana map made perfect geographic sense. Communities of interest, reasonable boundaries, logical districts. What the lower court mandated was constitutional vandalism, carving up the state purely by racial demographics, rather than any coherent political or geographic logic.
Okay, the map that was mandated by the court is totally crazy. Because here you have a congressional district that stretches all the way from New Orleans to Shreveport, which is like 150 miles away. It spans basically the entire width of the state. The district looks ridiculous and crazy. It's not cohesive at all. It carves all the way through the heart of the state, like through the middle of the state, in order to unite black populations in places that are 100 miles apart. And they did that because the court said you must have a second majority black district. So you must discriminate. Okay, so some white voters sued, and they said this violates the Equal Protection Clause, right? The Equal Protection Clause says you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race.
A 150-mile district connecting New Orleans to Shreveport is beyond absurd. It's racial engineering disguised as civil rights. The Supreme Court correctly recognized this as the very discrimination the Constitution forbids. Geographic coherence matters more than racial arithmetic.
He says Section 2 of the VRA was designed to enforce the Constitution, not collide with it. Unfortunately, lower courts have sometimes applied this court's Section 2 precedents in a way that forces states to engage in the very race-based discrimination the Constitution forbids. Right? He's saying here is that sometimes a court will force you to draw a black majority district which is in fact racist and violative of the Equal Rights Amendment of the Constitution, 15th Amendment. Right? That you are, if the court is forcing you to draw a majority black district, that is in fact racist. And that violates the Constitution.
Alito nailed the constitutional principle here. The Voting Rights Act was designed to ensure equal access, not create racial quotas in representation. When courts force race-based districting, they're violating the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, exactly what civil rights laws aim to prevent.
Quote, vast social change has occurred throughout the country, and particularly in the South, where many Section 2 suits arise. At the time of the Act's passage, the nation had faced nearly a century of entrenched racial discrimination in voting, an insidious and pervasive evil which had been perpetuated in certain parts of our country through unremitting and ingenious defiance of the Constitution. So things have changed. Black voters now participate in elections at similar rates as the rest of the electorate, even turning out at higher rates than white voters in two of the five most recent presidential elections nationwide and in Louisiana.
This is the key point. We're not living in 1966 anymore. Black voter participation often exceeds white turnout now. In 2020, black turnout was 63% nationally versus 71% for whites. Hardly the massive suppression Democrats claim exists.
And what they're really upset about, of course, is that more and more people are moving to the South, which means more southern congressional districts, which means more Republicans. Here is a map of projected 2030 congressional reapportionment. This is based on population trajectory. And what you see is massive gains in the South. You see Texas picking up another 4 seats and Florida picking up another 3. You can see North Carolina picking up another 2. The Southwest picks up some. California loses 4. The areas that are bleeding votes are the Democrat areas. The places that are gaining votes are the Republican areas. So
those population shifts are devastating for Democrats. Texas gaining 4 seats, Florida 3, North Carolina 2. That's potentially 9 more Republican House seats and 9 more electoral votes. Democrats needed racial gerrymandering to offset their demographic bleeding.
Total numbers. Red states are likely to gain 8 to 10 congressional seats by 2030. That also, by the way, means another 10 electoral votes in the presidential election. So what's actually happening here, as per our usual arrangement, is Democrats are claiming that them losing politically is America being racist or the Supreme Court being racist. And they insist that we impose actual racist top-down policy in order to protect them politically. That's what's actually happening here. Now, what's really amazing here is that President Trump, who again has been widely derided by the left, remember, Trump is trying to do Jim Crow 2.0, according to the Democrats. Well, it turns out that Trump's approval rating among black Americans is actually at an all-time high.
The ultimate irony. Trump's black approval has hit historic highs while Democrats scream about his racism. Latest polling shows him at 23% with black voters, double his 2020 performance. Meanwhile, Democrats are literally the ones demanding racial discrimination in redistricting.
But let me just remind you, none of this good stuff would be happening absent President Trump. None of it. You would have preferred Kamala Harris? Is that what you would prefer? One person who apparently would have is Candace Owens.
This perfectly encapsulates why Trump skeptics are missing the forest for the trees. Roe overturned, religious liberty protected, racial preferences banned, children protected from gender ideology. These are generational conservative victories that will outlast any personality complaints.